Welcome to the Wise Women Podcast and our debut season, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge. Because some moments in life call us to our edge and then beckon us to expand beyond it. In this season, we dive into the shared experiences of 20 remarkable women. And through honest conversation, we explore together the moments that shape us, stretch us, undo us, and ultimately return us to ourselves. I'm Katherine Jelinek, and this is the Wise Women Podcast. Hello, everyone. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce you to Stefani Schwartz. Stefani is a professional EOS implementer and a founding practitioner of Be Generative, a unique leadership development organization that is focused on managing energy and creating through that maximum output instead of outcomes. Thank you so much for being here, Stefani.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Katherine.
I'm so excited about your story. So please tell us, where does your story begin?
My story actually begins probably in late 2019. I can actually remember sitting at my desk having this conversation with my mentor, telling him that I was so burnt out. All I wanted to do was become a cashier at Stu Leonard's, which is a local grocery store here in town. And he was like, I hear you, and I'm sure you would be amazing at it. But who are we joking? We know within a week you would be redesigning the entire system, the entire operation. And he was right. I mean, I knew it. And I chuckled and I said, you're right, Rick. You're right, but I need a break. It was actually that conversation that made me really stop and pause. And it didn't hit me right away, but I realized over the course of time that it was me that was the problem. It wasn't my job. And it didn't matter where I went, what title I held, I was always going to be the problem. I was exhausted because of me, not just because of the job that I was doing.
What was it that you were doing? Was it the expectations you had of yourself?
It was. I was the COO for a multi-locational medical spa. So we did all kinds of non-invasive cosmetic aesthetic treatments, which was like being a kid in a candy shop. It was as a middle-aged woman, this was like my dream come true. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
But as the number two for the business, I held a lot of responsibility, and this was a job that I never saw for myself. When I actually started working for this company, I came in as a part-time bookkeeper. I was working like one Saturday a month, helping the founder kind of just, helping her offload the bookkeeping. And over time, I started working, and she scared the daylights out of me. I mean, I was so intimidated by her. She was just so smart. She had this amazing presence to her. She's close to 6 feet tall. She's like runway model thin, just always. She could wear a pair of sweats and she just looked amazing all the time. And I am her polar opposite. On a good heel and hair day, I'm 5 feet tall. I rarely look put together. And so, it's like I was in awe of her and very intimidated. So I would actually plan my work schedule so that I didn't ever run into her. I would just come in, fly in under the radar, do the work, and then leave. And over time, the need became more and more, and there was cause for us to actually be in a room together. And as I was going through my work, the way my brain operates, I would start asking her questions, or I would start asking people around me questions about why was this happening and could we do this differently, or, just poking around, and that's what I do. And she started including me in more conversations and started, then it went from, I want you to be our director of finance. And then, so I went into that and kind of cleaned things up and got things in order as we were continuing to grow. And she wanted to grow, but she didn't know. And she knew she had this really scalable model, but she didn't know how to do it. So we figured, we're two smart women. We can put our heads together and figure this out. And started kind of patchworking a program together, opened another location, did it all right. And then we came across EOS, which is this great framework that was going to help us grow and scale the business. As soon as we heard it, we were like, oh my gosh, yes. So we started implementing EOS into the business, which just doesn't have anything to do with my story. I'm just kind of took a left turn here. But it was through this implementation we grew very rapidly. And so it was through this growth, we built a leadership team, and we went from, having 13 employees to 65 employees. We were managing a COVID shutdown. We lost one of our locations in a crazy fire. So, all kinds of things. It was just nonstop. And so my function in the organization was in the day-to-day, just managing all of the people, managing all of the events, keeping things running while Mary was out just growing this beautiful business that she had.
You were the integrator.
I was the integrator, yes. And so this is where it kind of ties back to, I entered the business as a bookkeeper, and I thought that's where it maxed out. And she saw a potential in me that first of all, there was an interest that I didn't even know I had, but it was just through her listening and hearing the questions I was asking. And as I got to spend more time with her, I was less afraid of her. And we actually grew to be very, very good, close, dear friends, which is ironic, but she really did scare me. And so as I continued to elevate through the ranks and transitioned into this role of integrator, which was her number 2, I felt like an imposter, number one. And I just felt that the common theme in my life is I've always needed to be the best at whatever it is that I'm doing. I need to be a straight A student. I was in the marching band. I needed to be one of the best musicians. I was just constantly pushing. Whether it happened or not didn't always come to fruition, but it was one of those things I just felt I needed to push. And so this job was no different. I felt a need to prove myself, to prove my worth, to make sure that she didn't ever feel like she made a bad decision in elevating me into this position. And so it looked like me working 7 days a week. I wasn't taking vacations. I was losing out the time with my family. And I was resentful of the rest of my team because they were all doing things.
They weren't doing that. Right.
They weren't doing that. And it was interesting because it was that behavior that part of that behavior that Mary helped build the trust. I treated this business as if it was my own, and it didn't matter who the owner was. It didn't matter who signed the paychecks. I was in, it was mine. And again, it just, this resentment kind of built up that none of my team was following the same protocol. And I couldn't understand, I actually found myself judging them that they weren't invested enough.
Mm-hmm.
When it turns out, I was actually overinvested.
But I feel like a lot of us are going to be able to relate to this in one way or another, where you take yourself to this extreme. No one's doing it to you as much as you're doing it to yourself. Everybody starts to rely on you for this. It's not all negative. Like, you've opened how many doors with it, and then so what edge did this take you to, in your words?
Well, ultimately I ended up, I'll just take you on a quick.
Doesn't have to be quick.
So the burnout, I realized something had to change. I didn't know what that was. So I made the single biggest investment in myself, and probably the biggest. I paid the most amount of money I've ever paid at one time. And other than, say, to buy a car or, some big thing, but to make an investment in me was just unheard of. But I made investment in myself, signed up for this 8-week course to help executive women strike a balance between work and personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
And what it did was actually created this exposure that I was so deeply identified and had my identity so deeply attached to the work that I was doing, and really driving the value of who I was as a person and who I was as an employee. Even in my family and in my personal life, I was driving myself so hard because I felt so compelled to perform, because that's the way that I showed up for people. And that's how I proved my worth and my value, was by how much could I do in a day, in a week, for my family, for my boss, for my friends, whoever it was. I was constantly running against the clock. I mean, there were no minutes in the day that were not accounted for. And just this constant feeling of my life was a strategy puzzle. It was like, if I could drop one kid here and I have them in the, and it was all beautifully orchestrated, so long as nothing went awry. And then, which we all know that never happens, right?
Yeah. But then still, even if that doesn't feel good, I can imagine you were pretty remarkable at fixing those awry moments.
Yeah, I mean, I would pivot, but it's funny. I think back now to the tailspin that it would send me in, and just like that feeling of, I don't have this minute to spare. I cannot wait for this kid to have that conversation over there. And meanwhile, they're just being a kid, right? Or whatever it was. Like, there was never enough time. It was always, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go. I got to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's interesting, because now, like, I look back at the way that I was living my life, and like, I'm tired just thinking about it. I mean, I would get up at 5 a.m, go to the gym, do my morning routine, get to work by 7:30, 8 o'clock, work my day, have an hour and a half commute to get home between
Really?
6:30 and 7, make dinner for my 5 kids and my husband. And then,
5 kids.
yes. And then
You do take on a lot. Oh my
wash,
gosh.
rinse, and repeat. And it was like, and now if I can't start dinner by 4 o'clock, I'm like, oh, I guess we're going to have to order in. Sorry, guys. But I
Look
just
at
look
you.
back to that time, and I don't know how I did it. But that was the theme of my life, was just this constant, we needed to push myself, because all of my worth, all of my value was so directly related to how much I could pack into a day.
So what changed it?
Going through this 8-week coaching program that I went into what I affectionately refer to as an aftercare program, because 8 weeks wasn't going to unravel 7 years of this mess. And I had just made this huge investment. So I felt like I needed this to be muscle memory. And what happened was, through the extended coaching program, I had this, this realization that, number one, this was going to be a lifelong journey. And number two, it wasn't about burnout recovery. This was really about self-discovery and self-acceptance. And they were two things that I had never taken 15 seconds to pause and do, because I was living my life so specifically for others that I had no idea what I liked. I had no idea what I wanted, what I needed, what made me tick. And so it was through this journey that I started with my coach, that I had to really stop and ask myself these questions. And I don't know if you ever saw When Harry Met Sally, there's a great line in the movie where he has this, why can't I think of the actors in the movie? I know. Anyway, when Harry realizes that he wants to spend the rest of his life with Sally, he tells her, when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you cannot wait for the rest of your life to start. I kind of had the same feeling when I realized, when I took a moment to really pause and start to dig into what I needed and what was most important to me in my life, I realized that I didn't love my job. I was attached to Maria. I was attached to the loyalty. I was really attached to the opportunities and the potential that she had seen in me. And leaving that job really felt like a betrayal to her, which seemed way more than I could, than I could even wrap my head around. And at the same time, staying felt like self-abandonment.
Yeah, betrayal to you.
A betrayal to me. And, I was so accustomed to betraying myself, but I never knew it. So now that I had the self-awareness to recognize that I was betraying myself, and what the cost of all of that was, I couldn't unfeel it and I couldn't unknow it. And
Oof.
yeah. And so and it was one of the hardest conversations I've had to have with another human being.
Take us there. Like, what did you say?
I said to her, so it's funny, and yes, we have these quarterly conversations where you sit down with everybody on your team in a one-on-one environment, including the visionary and the integrator. So we were having our one-to-one, our quarterly one-to-one, and there's a whole format that we follow. And one of them is, do you get the job? Do you want the job? Do you have the capacity to do the job? And capacity is not time, it's skills. She says yes, yes, and yes about me. And I said, but that's not correct. I actually don't, I realized I don't want the job anymore. And I mean, her just crestfallen. She knew it was coming.
She did?
I mean, there were indicators leading up to this. I wasn't holding my team accountable. I wasn't doing my end of the bargain. The numbers, we were meeting them, but not as aggressively as we were meant to. And all of this was my responsibility.
Mm-hmm. But really quick on that, it sounds like I might be placing something on it, but as you've gained this awareness of the self-betrayal, like you didn't have the same energy to throw at it and things started to slip. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. It used to be I would wake up and I was like, yay, I'm going to work. And then once I had this realization or this epiphany that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do it. And so we had to have multiple conversations about a resignation. The first time was, well, do you need more money? Do you need equity? Do you need more people? Whatever you need, we will give to you. Like, we will figure it out and we will give to you. And so I stayed on. I agreed to stay on. She wrote up a beautiful package for me, and it was, fed my ego very nicely. And what I realized, though, as we sat down for the next quarterly conversation, so now we're 3 months later, that, I was still this square peg kind of trying to be jammed into a round hole. And I was really hoping that the effort would compensate for misalignment. And it wasn't, and again, my performance was showing and it was starting to leak through. And so, she knew that she, not only for the company's benefit, but for my benefit and being a good friend, we had enough conversations about this that, I said to her, I was like, everything that you have done and everything that you have offered has, it is so incredibly appreciated, but it doesn't change my motivation. Like, it's not getting me to want this job again. And so
you wanted yourself.
I did.
And you didn't have exactly.
Yeah. I mean, for the very, and I think, Catherine, that was actually the hardest part of that conversation, was saying to another human being that I choose me. And never in my life had I done that before. And so, it wasn't betraying her. It was, I mean, I did see that as a betrayal, but that wasn't the hardest part of that conversation. The hardest part for me was actually having to vocalize that I'm choosing me over anything else.
And you did vocalize it in that second quarterly conversation.
I did. Here's a note to anybody who ever decides that they want to leave their job. Do it the right way, but do not give 7 months notice, because it's way too much. At that point, we decided that it would be best if we came up with an exit plan. She asked me what the timeline was. I said, why don't we get through the end of the year? But this was in May. So I said, why don't we get through the end of the year? It felt like a natural, a good, like, winding down. We had a lot of open projects. I didn't want to leave anybody in the lurch. And very much to what I realized about halfway through this, and it's something that you mentioned earlier, was waking up and not wanting to do this. And now at least I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, but it was still so freaking far away, that it was actually painful going through this. And it was painful for my team. Like, I wasn't showing up for them. It was bad all around. Mm-hmm. So in retrospect, it's always much easier to play Monday morning quarterback. Maybe 8 or 12 weeks would have been appropriate.
Because you changed. And the minute you gave yourself permission to exit, there was a part of your soul that took off too.
Yes, exactly. My soul was like, thank you for honoring the fact that this contract is up. But so I just kept, we're done. So yes, it was very challenging. Mm-hmm. Coming to work. And, I don't ever want to do anybody wrong. And, I wanted to be sure that I was showing up and doing everything I was supposed to. It was really, really difficult.
And then upon leaving, I
Yes.
want to know the self-discovery, like what happened, right? Like what was that chapter like where you started to choose yourself and were making decisions based on what fit you?
Very uncomfortable. I mean, basically, and I'm still going through this now. I mean, so I mean, all of this transpired at the in 2023. So I left my corporate job at the end of 2023, and here we are,
Oh,
mid 20s, early 26. I spent most of 2024 kind of unraveling and all of that, like letting my nervous system reset. And for, I mean, on January 2nd, when I woke up and I didn't have anywhere to go, I didn't know what to do with myself. It, it was just the most foreign, uncomfortable feeling. And every day it kept getting worse. It actually would get worse and worse because in the first couple of days, it's like, you know, it's just temporary. I knew I was going into EOS coaching. I had gone through the boot camp. I had my franchise agreement. I knew what was next, but I was not ready to actually step into that. And it was interesting because my coach that I work with, she said, you know, you should probably plan to take like a few months. And I said, a few
doesn't
months.
sound fun, right? You're like, no.
I'll be back to work in a couple of weeks. Like I just need a couple of weeks to kind of, you know, shake things off and get into the routine. Well, fast forward to September of 2024, which is when I saw my first EOS client and actually like started working again. And
Yeah.
in that time, I had to get very uncomfortable. I had to get very comfortable with the idea of having nothing on my calendar, nothing on my schedule. I had to actually build blocks of time to try things out that would be qualified as play because I didn't know how to play. And I actually, you know, I mean, that was like one of my assignments for my coach was, you know, she was like, basically, you're dating yourself. You need to go figure out what do you enjoy doing? What brings you joy? And, you know, I was just so blocked from that. I had no idea. So I literally like Googled how do I play as an adult? I mean, I
What
had
came
no
up?
idea. I had no clue. I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh my God, I bet.
No,
Okay.
no, no, that's not what I meant.
Not that. Well, what did you find? Like, what do you do now? What do you like?
I still struggle with this, but you know, I started with painting. Love to be outside. I am a self-proclaimed solar-powered human.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything outdoors, I need the sun shining on me. I love playing in the dirt. I love planting flowers and pruning things and all of that. I love being in the jungle. I traveled so much in the first year that I
Awesome.
was off work. I went to Spain. I did the Camino Santiago. So
Congratulations.
I walked 100 kilometers in 6 days, and it was the most incredible experience just being completely off the grid and in these beautiful villages and amongst eucalyptus trees and just being able to like smell it all and like really engaging all my senses and all the things. It was incredible. I went to Costa Rica twice. I went to Mexico. I went to visit all of my kids in college. They're all over the country. It
Oh,
was
that's
just,
awesome.
yeah, it was such an incredible experience. And also, helped me bring me back to that travel bug that I have. Like I spent a lot of time during that year kind of casting my future vision, right? What does life look like 5 years from now or 10 years from now? And a lot of it had to do with cultural immersions and being in different places and getting my hands dirty and building things. And so it's just been
Hmm.
it's just this ongoing it's an ongoing journey of self-discovery. I mean, I have a list of the things in 2026 that I want to try. I was just talking with a girlfriend the other day about getting my pilot's license. There's just
Oh my gosh,
something
I love that.
so liberating. I want to go get my pilot's license so I can, you know, if it's a nice Saturday out or a Wednesday even, right? Like I have this beautiful schedule now where I get to work, you know, a handful of days during the year and I get to make my schedule and whatever. But if I want to go rent a plane and fly to Massachusetts for lunch, you know, I mean, it's just, there's, I think
Mm-hmm.
just the autonomy and the freedom that represents to me is just so appealing. And I don't
Yeah.
know where getting my pilot's license came from. It's not something as a kid I ever dreamt of, but you know, again, like this ties back to having to Google like how, as an adult, how do I play? I really didn't know what made me tick. So I've just spent the last couple of years really, again, like dating myself and trying different things, and
Hmm.
had, kind of this great epiphany that I've always associated creativity with art, and creativity shows up in all aspects of our world. And I think that it's not some great epiphany, like some, great philosophical epiphany, but for me personally, it was just this honor and recognition that even when I'm helping a team solve a problem, that is creativity. If I'm in the kitchen cooking a
Yeah.
meal, that's creativity. If I'm building a flower bed
Yes.
outside, that's taken up flower arranging. Every week I
Wow.
go to Trader Joe's and I buy, a handful of different flowers and bring them home and make an arrangement. And it's just so fun. And what I love about it is that there will never be two that look the same, even if I have,
The same
same
flowers.
jar, the same flowers, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And so for somebody who has typically been very concrete and very black and white, I have spent a lot of time dabbling in the gray and really embracing the gray and recognizing that that's where all of the fun, juicy stuff is.
I just need to sit in this for a while because this is good. This is good. Okay, so give us a vision of what's today like now. Like you are like in your own promised land of sorts. Not that there isn't always gray and new discovery and questions and acceptance of self to be done, but you said you're living your dream, waking up every day, doing what you love. What is that? Like if you and I love these stories because I can imagine to some degree if 2019, 2018, you could see your life today, like what would she say, right?
She
Yeah.
would not believe, her socks would be knocked off.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, and it was, it's interesting because 2019 me was being told by my mentor, you would be a great coach. You should consider doing that. And I was like, yeah, I don't
The
think so. I
hints
don't
were
think
there.
yeah, that's for other people who are way better than me, And so it was just, I mean, there is no way that 2019 me would ever have imagined that this is the life that, that that we're living. It's just it's a dream come true. And, one of the things that's been really interesting is that in part of that time that I took off in 2024, one of the exercises that I actually went through was to really sit down and think about the my ideal client's avatar. Who
Hmm.
is that person that I want to work with? And initially I thought it was women run businesses and women run teams, and that's really where I was targeting my focus. But what I started to realize as I brought in a couple teams that weren't women owned or women run, and I really gelled with them, was that they were all heart centered. And so it doesn't matter the gender,
Gender.
right? It's that they're heart centered, human centric teams, that is their priority, and that they have a belief that when you do really well with those two things, when you really build a strong culture around respect and integrity and love, if I dare say it, that
Dare it.
everything else will fall into place.
Hmm.
The revenues, the profits, all the retention, all the things. And that's what I recognize that all of my teams had in common. And that's why I work so well with them. And I actually just had a week ago, I had a pitch call with a potential client. And from the very first words that they spoke to me, I knew that it was off. Like I
Hmm.
just knew that we were not, they were very, their business model is great. I'm not the right coach for them.
Truly. I get it.
It was very finance bro feel, which is just not my jam. And it's so interesting that that one phone call kind of knocked me off my socks, and it made me start thinking, am I really like, is this really the place for me? Is this really what I should be doing? And then yesterday I had another pitch call with two of the most incredible women who are running this amazing psychology practice that want to move forward. And it just like restored my belief in really holding true to my values, that just because, and I say this to everybody all the time, I'm like, not all dollars are equal. So just because somebody picks you, if you don't pick them in return, then the energetic exchange that's going to happen is going to be way more than the currency exchanged.
Right. Well,
And
and I love what you've identified is you just want to have companies where you're not there to teach them about being heart-led and that people matter and that profit will come. Like all those, like you're there for the people who already know that.
yes.
And that's okay to claim it, like who you're here for. I love that
Yeah.
too.
And there are so many of us in the world. There are plenty of people for everybody, right?
Yeah, who are ready to catalyze and bring you there or like work with you in the middle. And yeah.
Yeah. So it's been such a great journey. I actually was able to fire a client that I was misaligned with, and it felt so great to let
Look
them
at you
go.
choosing yourself, right?
Right. And that's it. Like that's the lesson in all of this, is that, when I, by choosing myself, it's not just a win for me. I mean, it's a win for everybody. The ripple effect and the ecosystems that are affected by me having a full tank, by me living my values, and by like me really honoring what is most important and the non-negotiables in my life, it comes back every single time.
I think that's your mic drop moment right there. Because how else? I mean, this is excellent. And I really appreciate getting to kind of chart the full emotional journey with you on the self-discovery element. And I love too that it's not like you're sitting here like, I am fully discovered. Like there's of course always more and more and more. But the energy, the confidence. Here's a question that came up. As we kind of move to conclusion, is self-worth a choice? Is worth a choice? How would, because obviously in this journey, you are so seated in your worth and in acceptance. And how do you get there? Is it a choice or what is it?
Such a great question. 2019 me would say, yes, it's a choice. And current day me says it's absolutely not a choice. We may choose to look the other way, but it's always there. It's always inside of us. We were born with it. And over time, I feel that we are conditioned to let it go for whatever reason, whether it's society or generational challenges or whatever the things are. But we are born. It's our God-given birthright to be worth the love, to be worth the living into our needs and living a life of abundance. And it slowly just gets stripped away from us, but it's always there. It's always inside of us. And so I think it's just a matter of us coming back to it.
I feel like the choice is the choice you've made, the choice to delight in it.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you so much for this very powerful story, Stefani.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I appreciate you, sidecarring with me along for the windy road.
It's a delight. It's a beautiful story. And I know that everyone listening has gotten a lot out of it as well.
Thank you so much.
Again. Yeah. Till next time, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Wise Women podcast. You can find the book, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge, on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. And keep listening to the wisdom that your life is offering you.